Okay, you lot, so today we shall be reviewing Canary, the newest SSR unit that just came out in the game, right? So I have managed to summon her. Now, of course, I did go for pity, right? I usually don't summon light and dark units using the actual summons, right? But yeah, Canary, I built her level 80, she's currently affinity level 29. I managed to skill up all of the actual stat skills. When it comes to dupes, I am gonna leave her unduped, and one of the reasons is, first of all, honestly, none of the upgrades to her skills are that impactful for me to use a dupe on, right? And second of all, spoiler alert by the way, I don't see myself using this unit much often in my progression, right? So yeah, for the build that I've used in this run, this is pretty much it. Honestly, based on her kit, what I'm trying to do is give her a little bit of speed, but the rest of the stats are gonna go into tanky stats, so that is defense and HP, right? For equipment, again, I only farm speed sets, so she of course has a speed set and an HP set, right? But yeah, that's the build that I'm gonna be using her. I've tested her out in every single available content in the game, so this includes dungeons, Abyss Lake, Abyss Corridor, PvP, and Subjugation, and I'm gonna quickly review every single aspect about her kit and whether I feel like she is worth summoning or not, right? So let's go. Okay, so just to start off first, let's review her kit real quick, right? You've most likely already seen it, but just to get you up to speed, just in case you decide to watch the video before you summon. So yeah, first skill deals 101% of attack as damage to all enemies and has a 30% chance to absorb 7% of their attack gauge. Now, at level 0, right, like at an unskilled level, this is an absolutely useless skill. I'm not even gonna hide it, right? Even at 60%, she only absorbs 7%. So in the end, if you're fighting in PvP, for example, you're hitting 4 enemies, you will absorb on average probably like 2 to 3 procs, which will be like 14 to 21%. But even then, I feel like that is just not that impactful at all, right? For the second skill, reduce all allies phase 3 skill cooldown by 1 turn and restore 6% of attack gauge, which goes up to 10% if it's skilled up. Now for this skill, I feel like this is probably her most useful skill when it comes to PvE content, right? The reason why I wouldn't recommend duping it up is because when it comes to PvE, right, 6% to 12% is, again, like, it does not impact your game at all, and in my opinion it's not worth using a dupe if you are just mostly going for PvE for her, right? So yeah, for this one we're mostly looking at reducing the phase 3 skill cooldown, right? And the rest of the attack gauge part really isn't that important, right? And for her ultimate, cooldown 10 turns, which goes down to 6 if you skill her up, right? But yeah, revive all allies and grants invincibility and effect resistance for 1 turn. Cooldown increases by 2 turns each time this skill is used. So this skill, honestly, I would say this skill, if you skill it up, it's actually gonna be a bit of a grief for you in PvE content, especially if you're going on order, right? But this is an amazing skill for PvP, for some niche PvP teams, right? So just a disclaimer, when you revive them with around like 25% HP, and some of the units do work really well with low HP, such as Beatrice, which we will most likely be using in the PvP part of the spotlight, right? But yeah, revive all allies, invincibility, it's a very good skill. You can sort of make these turn 2 comms where the enemies nuke you real quick, and then you come back and nuke them back, which I will showcase in PvP. I did manage to make it work somewhat, so we'll see how that works out towards the end of the video. And yeah, for her passive, whenever enemies use AoE attacks, restore 1 MP and reduces damage taken by allies by 6%. So again, the damage part, not as important, right? But the restore 1 MP part, it's a really good skill in PvP, right? It will counter pretty much all DPS units, it will counter Libertas, and you will be getting a lot of mana cycling, right? So yeah, let's try it out in some content and I'll talk about it there. Okay, and here's some clips that I have pre-recorded when I tested a Canary out in some content, right? So for this one, we're gonna start with the Abyss Lake part of the PvE content. So for this one, I'm mostly gonna showcase level 30, right? Because that's really where the challenge begins, right? Look at that first upgrade, by the way, 280% extra crit damage. That's amazing. But yeah, when it comes to Abyss Lake, right? What I didn't like about her is not just in Abyss Lake, but in general when it comes to PvE, right? On order, she will always use her ultimate skill, right? Even if there are no no allies to revive, she will always use her ultimate skill, which is a very, very bad thing, right? Especially because when it comes to order, ideally you want her to be spamming her second skill every time, right? If she always spammed her second skill, she would be a very, very good order unit for PvE, right? But the problem is she keeps spamming that ultimate over and over again whenever it's available, and that first of all uses a lot of your mana, and second of all, that skill doesn't exactly do much to help your team, which kind of grieves you quite a bit, right? But yeah, if she only used her second skill, I would say she would be sort of like a middle towards maybe the higher tier of a unit. But now, unfortunately, because of that ultimate spam, I just cannot place her that high. Plus, this is not a case for Abyss Lake, but for more other PvE content, spamming that second skill, it's like a really good skill for the rest of your team, right? But it drains your mana super fast. So unless you have units like Diana or Ferency in your team, you will find yourself losing a lot of mana. For me, in this run in particular, I did have the mana cycling like buff upgraded quite a bit, so I didn't run it out of mana here. But in other PvE content, trust me, you will be running out of mana if you keep spamming that second skill. But yeah, overall for Abyss Lake, not the worst unit because you can spam a lot of mana from various buffs, which will make her pretty strong, right? And now let's go to Subjugation. So for this one, honestly, Subjugation is a bit of a piece of content where you can complete it super easily manually, right? But if you just are not bothered to do it manually, right, there are some ways to do it on order. And in here I found that, again, like if you do have 5 minutes to dedicate to a run, right, you can very easily beat it on manual by just using Theodore and Ciri usually, right? Just by perma provoking the boss, you are pretty much able to hard counter them without much investment. But then again, I did try out Canary in here as well, and honestly, if you look at my team, right, I've used Canary and 3 other 4-star units, right? I feel like these 4-star units are really strong, especially in this boss in general, right? Of course, Yuri being the flexible one based on the element that you are fighting. But yeah, overall, when it comes to Subjugation, Canary didn't do much. Again, you will see when we encounter a piece of content where we don't have as much mana cycling, right? And even then, like, I have Stein to cycle mana, I have Ciri to cycle mana, and even then you will be running out of mana quite a bit, right? Especially if you have a little bit more of a mana hungry DPS. But yeah, overall, honestly, like, yes, she worked. I did manage to win the run on order, but I have to say that pretty much any other unit that I placed in that spot would have done just as well, right? She didn't exactly provide much apart from cycling the tier 3 skills a little bit more, right? So yeah, honestly, nothing too special here, very mid. Plus, as you can see, when she uses her ultimate, all I'm doing is I'm pretty much losing mana because that ultimate does not help me one bit at all, right? So again, like, very big drawback when it comes to order is her using her ultimate, right? If you're using a manual and you just spam the second skill, she will be much better, but on order, unfortunately, she's not that good, right? And now we arrive at Abyss Corridor. So this is the first level, right? I did beat a few levels already off camera after recording this, but I did want to try to use Canary in Abyss Corridor as well. I usually try to use the new units that come out in here because in my opinion this is the hardest piece of content. And yes, I did miss a crit with my Sasha there, so that's an instant restart. Yeah, I tried to use the new units in here because I feel like this is pretty much like the hardest PvE content in the game. And if they are able to keep up here, I can somewhat call them viable in PvE scenarios, right? But this has been probably the first time when a new unit actually didn't do well in this mode for me, right? I tried to make several different team comps. You're only seeing the last team comp that I've tried, right? And this is, I feel like, what was probably my best attempt at it. But honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, right? Based on the team comps that I've used before, Canary simply didn't provide anything, right? I have made already like a few videos on beating the Abyss Corridor hard level 30 out of 30 stars, and you can see my teams that I use, right? They're quite similar. I've used Machina in there, I've used Ivy in there. Both of them were very good units in there. Unfortunately for Canary, I tried a few teams, like trust me, I really tried a few teams to make her work. I tried to swap the units around. Honestly, she just didn't provide much, right? Because the problem in this mode in particular is usually you have very limited spots in your team, and your units need to do a lot in order to contribute quite a bit in here, right? And unfortunately for her, the revive isn't exactly something that I need, because at this point, if I need a revive, I'm already losing most likely, right? Because the mode is basically turn gated, right? In order to get all 3 stars from a level, you need to beat it within a certain amount of turns, and reviving honestly is just gonna be using those turns a lot. So yeah, honestly, just the second skill alone did not provide me enough utility to justify using her here. So overall, when it comes to Abyss Corridor, yes, I'm gonna test her a bit more, I think, but honestly, I'm gonna give it a hard no for now, because simply she didn't work for me here at all, until now at least, right? So yeah, subject to change in the future, but for now, unfortunately, I can't say that she is good in Abyss Corridor at all. And lastly, we arrive at PvP, and just a disclaimer, this is the team that I've used, that you can see: Canary, Diana, Beatrice, and Bernice. I've played like 20 to 30 battles, I've tested several different team comps. This was the team comp that worked best for me when it comes to Canary, right? And the way you use it is, honestly, I use this into pretty much the current meta team comps that consist of Diana, Libertas, a buffer of some sort, and a DPS of some sort, right? And the basic principle here is, what I do is I build a very tanky Canary, right? And my goal with her is to survive the hit, right? It doesn't matter if the rest of my team survives, right? As long as she survives, she will be able to revive and give invincibility to everyone else. And that means that it does revive my Beatrice at low HP, and when my Beatrice is at low HP, she will be doing a lot of defense ignoring damage on the enemy. So that's the basic idea behind this team. As you can see, once my Canary gets a turn, she will revive Beatrice. Again, the problem with this is, just because you revive your Beatrice, that does not mean that you win, right? There's quite a few counters to this team, right? First of all, Libertas. Again, if she uses her first skill and she strips the invincibility from her Beatrice, that's pretty much a GG. Right? There's also Sasha, which in my opinion just went up in the rankings a lot, because even if she doesn't kill, even if you have the invincibility, she can still silence you, right? And if she does manage to silence you, you will most likely be losing the fight, right? And yeah, for reference, for this video, I've been sitting around top 30. I think I went up to top 16 or something like that when testing this. But yeah, overall, this was the team comp that I've used. Just a general idea behind it. My Diana now has the fastest set, right? I basically transferred my Libertas set to Diana. So my Diana is around 300 speed when testing in this video. The basic idea behind this team is, if I do outspeed, what I do is I second skill with my Diana into my Bernice, and then my Bernice is fast enough to where she can usually follow up and use her ultimate, right? And after that, because Libertas AI will always use third skill first, right? She will not be able to strip, and their team will not be able to do any damage. So the only dangerous part becomes a Sesha, right? Because Sesha can still silence me through the invincibility, but otherwise I'm not really scared of the fight at all. And because Bernice's invisibility is 2 turns now, I can actually use my Beatrice's first skill, not to kill, right? Killing the enemy was a little bit lucky here, I'd say, but mostly to gain that attack buff before using her ultimate for some extra damage, right? Now if I do get outsped, you have seen what happens in the previous fight. Essentially, I try to survive with my Canary, right? I do have Bernice's passive there so that she can survive a little bit easier, and as long as my Canary survives and my Beatrice does not get CC'd, silenced, stripped or anything like that, usually it's gonna work out, right? So yeah, you can see a few examples here. Honestly, I'm not expecting to outspeed with Diana, right? Because Libertas is slightly faster than Diana, I believe, although I could be wrong here, right? And plus my Diana doesn't have her last skill up, so she doesn't have that extra speed. But yeah, as you can see, everyone dies, right? Diana dies, Bernice is close to dead, Beatrice is dead. See, everyone is dead, only Canary is alive. But then Canary pops a little bit of a revive, and at that point, you are pretty much hoping that the enemy Libertas or the enemy Sesha does not kill your DPS, right? Unfortunately for me, in this game, that did happen, right? But yeah, I mean, there are some situations where you can make out. I believe I used the second skill in here, yeah. So I can boost up on my Bernice. In that case, Bernice cycles, right? And the cool thing about this is, even if you die, even if you receive a lot of hits, because of Canary's passive, usually you will start your turn with a lot of mana, and whatever units survive, they will be able to do a lot of their skills because you have a bunch of mana. And in the end, as you can see, total chaos. I don't know what happened, but in the end, my Beatrice has her ultimate. She is low HP, and she is able to do a lot of damage in these cases. This is the best team that I found, right? I can't say whether this is like the actual best team that exists, but this is what worked the best for me. And yeah, just the final fight, I think this guy was top 5, I believe, when I fought him. So yeah, just to showcase that it does somewhat work, right? Spoiler alert, I did win this fight because it happened like an hour ago. But yeah, as you can see, fully buffed, right? Like fully damage buffed with that. Everyone dies. Wait, no, I didn't win this one. Anyway, but yeah, as you can see, it's not 100% win, right? If honestly, the win percentage depends a lot on your Canary's sustain, right? Like for example, because I farm speed sets, right? I only usually upgrade those speed sets, and I don't have a lot of other pieces, so it would help if I did have the new shield set. It would help if I had maybe like a triple HP set on her. But overall, yeah, you can see the basic strategy. You either move first with Diana and buff your Bernice ultimate, or you try to survive with your Canary, and at that point you try to buff up, you try to give invincibility to your Beatrice, and whenever Beatrice is low HP, even then, like you can see, she stripped, right? But she didn't do enough damage, and at this point you are able to wipe the enemy team. So yeah, overall I'd say this team works like 70 to 80% of the time for me, right? And that's cool because essentially you don't really have to outspeed, right? You just have to pray for luck, and if you're not confident in your speed, this is a team that sort of works. And yeah, as you can see in the defense teams, we can already see some Canary in there, and usually the Canary teams that I do see are very sort of like turtle slow comms, so like Priscilla, Bernice a lot, there's a lot of Ravi and stuff. So yeah, I don't know how good those teams are on defense, right? But yeah, that's pretty much my review, right? When it comes to whether you should summon her or not, Honestly, I'll say like this, if you only care about PvE content, I would not summon her at all. I don't think she is that good at all compared to a lot of other units. If you care about the current PvP meta, she can be a useful toy to play around, although Libertas will definitely still work on offense. And when it comes to real-time arena, I think real-time arena is where she will shine the most, right? Because she does have a very good individual kit. The problem with her is only her ultimate sort of has a lot of synergy with the rest of the units that you have, right? For the rest of the units, like second skill, again, that I don't see that working well in PvP. First skill, I don't see that working too well in PvP, right? For PvP, you mostly want her passive and her third skill, and I feel like in RTA that might be where she pops off the most, right? But overall, honestly, definitely not as OP as the previous two units that were released, right? More of a fun toy and very PvP focused fun toy, right? For a little bit of a change to the Libertas meta, but yeah, overall, if you really care about PvE, I wouldn't bother summoning her, wait for better units. For PvP, if you want to compete, it's always good to have a second team ready, just so you can counter some of the teams. But yeah, that's about it for my review for her. As you can see, it worked out relatively okay in PvP, and yeah, hope you enjoy. Let me know your thoughts about this unit in the comments, whether you plan on summoning her or not, and yeah, peace.